Hello viewers, I'm gonna be trying to do a longer format videos because I'm getting a bit tired of making the shorts all the time, so why not just start with a plugin review. The recently released FeenstaubTX by Variety of Sound. Okay, let's read what this plugin is all about. So the official documentation says that it's loosely based on the VOS plugin design first introduced in 2007. It is a audio transient, processing-based expander. The transient-based processing allows for both compression and expansion effects on a very small scale with minimal distortion introduced. This allows for artistic coloration, transient management, glue effects, and as well as sublime control over the stereo image. So basically, from what I understand, it's a mid-side transient processor expander, all in one. It is best applied to whole mixes, and it says here, mixing music is essentially about adjusting and balancing audio in 3 dimensions: its timbre, its dynamic structure, and its distribution in the stereo field. The FeenstaubTX is an audio plugin that takes advantage of effects in 3 dimensions that add up to a very consistent and musical sounding overall effect. Best works on complex full program stereo material. So as I said, it's best suited for whole mixes, masters. Well, let's see what it does. So here we have the plugin itself. I'll just put it in default. And first, let's not use a whole mix. First, let's use a loop, which I selected for this kind of purpose. Let's solo the mids. So from what I see, it works like more like a compressor than expander, but I can hear that it pushes the lower parts of the loop upwards. So basically these big mid-side knobs are internal gain, stage, potentiometers, and these two actually control the amount of saturation and the intensity of the internal processing of this plugin. The documentation says that the internal makeup gain is automatic, so it should compensate for the gain reduction. But if you feel like modifying it further, you can use the trim fader. Right, let's see how it compensates the signal. Seems like it's not compensating at all. I mean, I hear a little bit of compensation, but it's not enough. I feel like I'll have to use the trim fader to compensate fully for the gain reduction. So for example, right about now I have 41% on the mid potentiometer, and I had to turn up the trim on the mid section by a little bit. I think it's like 2.8 to really get the same signal after the process. So the trim allows you to plus and minus 6 dB, and basically it says that it's before the meter, the view meter in the middle. So I should effectively be able to graphically see if I have the same gain compensation. So let's see. Yeah, this actually works. It sounds pretty close when I switch it on and off. Let's try it on the whole mix. Right, so I'm gonna be using Scarecrow by Risk Runners, and let's see what it does on a whole mix, how it sounds, and yeah, I think I'll have to focus on the transients, so I think I'll skip to a more busier part of the track. So I can definitely hear the expander part of this plugin when I put it on a whole mix. The quieter parts where there's not much going on, they get pushed up, but yeah, when it gets busier, it gets pushed down, it's more compact, and I can definitely come up with a use for this, but I don't think I would use it here. It would have to be more subtle. There's a high pass function, so let's try it on. Definitely brings out the body of the mix upwards. Yeah, the high pass is really necessary for full mixes. Definitely sounds better now with the high pass on. It's a lot tighter now. The whole mix sounds more compact actually. This is off. This is on. You can hear the high end pops up. It does actually sounds really nice. It does actually sounds really nice though. I have exaggerated the settings, but still it made the whole mix a lot more compact and punchier. Yeah, but let's see what the range potentiometer does. So the range controls how the plugin reacts to transients. When it's all the way to the left, it focuses on the narrowest transients, and when it's all the way to the right, it takes into account the wider content of the transient. The manual says that it also takes into account the tonality of the transients, which is really interesting actually. The math behind this must be crazy. Okay, yeah, listen to the snare drum. Listen to the snare drum when I have it all the way to the right and all the way to the left. Listen to it. It's really sharp now. All the way to the right. It's actually more mellow. Almost like a lot warmer. It's much more snappier now. A lot more warm. Huh. On automatic, I felt like it's like somewhere in the middle. It decided what to do with it on its own. Sounded like something in between. It's not exactly like 50%, but something like it does something differently. But you can hear when it's all the way to the left, you can hear that the snare drum is really snappy and it's brighter. When I turn it all the way to the right, it's actually more warm and it's more mellow. The transient actually mellows out a little bit. So the X mid and X side potentiometers are: the processing intensity in one channel can be used to perform a signal saturation or expansion in the other channel, cross-channel processing. The intensity can be set from -200 to 200% and it's added to the existing processing in the other channel. Huh. So let's hear. So when I turn up the X mid to the right, it adds to the processing on the mid section. When I turn it to the left, it feels like it's expanding the signal. So from what I understand, is when you turn the X potentiometer all the way to the left, it acts as an expander for the other side, and vice versa. So if we turn it all the way to the right, it adds this signal to the counterpart, meaning the transients of the midsection will affect the side signal when I turn it to the right. And when I turn it to the left, the transients of the midsection will expand the side section, but only the transients. Because I noticed when I turn up the trim fader, it didn't react the same way, so you can affect the processing of each part, the mid and side, by the counterpart's transients. That's actually really nice. Okay, so let's recap. The big potentiometers affect the amount of signal processing for each part, the mid and the side. The range affects how the plugin reacts to each part transients. If you turn the range all the way to the left, it's more narrow and it's more clear. If you turn it all the way to the right, it's more warm and rounded. If you have it on automatic, it's somewhere in between, but it still decides on its own, depending on the material that you put it through. The X mid and X side are potentiometers, which can be used to affect the other side. If you put it all the way to the left, you're affecting the counterpart's expansion by the original transients and vice versa. If there is a mid-side transient, it will expand the sides by that transient. If it's on the left side. If it's on the right side, the transient will affect the compression of the counterpart. So now we have this little thing. When it's not engaged, it says that it actually works as a tube circuit. But when it's engaged, it's a more aggressive solid state like compressor, or I don't know, like circuit behavior, solid state behavior. Although it says here that as a side effect, sometimes it can lead to more noticeable changes in the audio level and harmonics basically when it's activated. Okay, let's try it. Yes, it is way more aggressive. Basically the same settings I had before, I just turned it on and I can hear the compression works harder than it did before. So when I turn it on, I would have to readjust the makeups and all the things I have said before. Focus on the snare drum. It reacts to the snare drum a lot more. If there is a snare roll, it drags the the mix down, so there needs to be some kind of compensation. As I said, you need to readjust everything. I'm not actually sure whether I would use this. I wouldn't use it on a whole mix. I would leave it off because I liked how it sounded without it. The mix was still a lot more compact and sounded actually really good, really sharp. With it, it sounded like it was ducking a lot. Okay, let's see what the trafo is all about. Okay, so the purpose of the trafo is that it's the conversion from mid-side to back to left and right encoding, and it's down on the output stage using the transformer circuit. The coloration effect of the transformer module can be activated independently of any other processing by clicking on the transformer icon. So the encoding, of course, is done regardless if it's on and off, but there is some kind of transformer circuit saturation and coloration thing. So let's see. I think it does something, but I actually honestly cannot tell. Yeah, I think this is a really interesting plugin. It really depends on what you put through it. The application always matters. The material always matters. You will process metal song differently than ambient song, or you will process differently a EDM to ambient. I can definitely tell I will be using this one because I can already imagine scenarios where I would really benefit from some mid-side expansion. I think this was worth the time. This is a really exciting plugin. Every time Variety of Sound releases something, I'm always excited because I use their or his plugins all the time. For example, Density MK3 or Boot Egg MK4 right now. I don't know. Yeah, but definitely check FeenstaubTX out. It's worth your time. I think it is a useful thing to have because, well, it's something fresh, something that works differently from other compressors, expanders, saturators. And I think, for example, if you have some kind of beat loop that's really boring, I think you can bring it to life with this thing. So yeah, thanks for watching and see you later. Take care. Bye.